Let's talk about why I tell people to not play with Ouija boards. If you're new here, hi. I usually talk about some pretty scary stuff, and a lot of the time on my page, I talk about other people's experiences. However, I have a lot of my own. And if you've been here for a long time, then you've probably heard the story, or if you listen to any of the podcasts that I'm on, you've probably heard this story. But I think it's important to revisit it because I am a very strong advocate on not messing with that thing specifically. And it's because of my experience. And before I get comments flooding into my everything, I know I should have listened to my mom, okay? I know that now. But let's get into it. When I was a freshman in high school, I and my friend decided to make a Ouija board and play it in my room. You may be asking yourself, why did you make it? Because I've come to find out that when you make things with intention, it is worse. And if y'all are unaware, Toys R Us, when it was a thing, you could buy a Ouija board at Toys R Us. You can buy Ouija boards at a lot of toy stores or novelty stores, which is very scary in retrospect, but I digress. So, this person I was around had already experienced a lot of things with ghosts. I had only seen one, and I was almost certain that it was just a family member. So we shut off the lights. I had this little table sitting over there, and we put the Ouija board, I put the planchette on, we lit a candle, and we put a small piece of silver on the corner. And we're asking dumb questions like, who are you? How old are you? You know, whatever. And the planchette is moving, but it feels so strong that I'm convinced it's her pushing it. And it's answering normally, like I don't remember the answers to that, but I do remember the answer to this one. I got fed up with the planchette moving so quickly that I asked the board something that my friend wouldn't know. And I proceeded to ask it, if you're so real, what is my grandfather's middle name? So when my grandfather passed, I am almost certain that we did not put his middle name on his obituary because nobody knew that. And that was like something within my family that we did not share, etc. There were 5 letters in his middle name. The planchette stopped moving when I asked the question. We sat there for probably 15 seconds, and I was like, this is fake. I knew you were pushing it. And as I'm saying that, it starts moving. It goes to the first letter, and it's right. It goes to the second letter, and it is right. It goes to the third letter, and as it's heading for the third, I take my hands off. I know, big no-no. And I am absolutely horrified. It finished spelling his middle name, and afterwards, I put my hands back on, we said goodbye, I blew the candle out, and we just went on our merry way because that was too much. Now, the backyard at my parents' house is set up where we have a lot of shrubbery and tall trees. And after our session with the Ouija board, we decided to do something that we thought would be fun, which is taking photos in my backyard. And it's important to note that the room that I had at my parents' house in the basement, the window in the room faced out towards the backyard. And as we were taking photos against this shrubbery, I had my back faced away from the window. My mom is the only one home, and as I'm taking pictures of my friend, we hear. We both turn around. We don't see any movement. My parents' room was right above where I lived. So I'm convinced it's my mom messing with me. I run inside, I go upstairs, I fly through her door, and she is asleep. I wake her up, and she does the mom thing where she's like, you know, and I'm like, why did you scare us? She had no idea what I was talking about. And for a long time, I was like, no, I know it was you because you told us not to do that and blah, 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 blah. Ratted myself out. And she immediately was like, I did not mess with you. And I will get into how I know it wasn't her. The following month after this happened was the scariest month I can possibly think that I had activity in my house. So a week after we played with this board, my sister burst into my room at 6 a.m. and she's like, I have something to talk to you about, and I don't know what it was. Okay, weird, because my sister usually sleeps until noon, and she's up at 6 a.m. willingly, and she says she has something to tell me because she doesn't know what it was. I immediately have a weird feeling. She begins to tell me how she essentially astral projected out of her body and was looking at herself sleep through her window, which is on a slope at my parents' house. And she saw something leaning over her body. When she woke up, my dog was gristled up, teeth showing, snarling, growling, and barking at the corner in the middle of the night. And I compartmentalized that, right? I didn't tell her about the board. I didn't tell her what we did. I didn't tell her anything. I just said, this probably just a nightmare. I think it was just whatever, because I didn't want to scare her. The week after that, so we're 2 weeks post Ouija board session, and my parents are out of town in Colorado, and my sister is at my cousin's house staying the night. So I was home alone, and there's a little note to me as a person. I don't like the dark. And this particular night, I felt so comfortable walking in the dark. It was really weird. The only light source, I was shutting all the lights off for the night. The only light source was coming from my room. So there's the big doorway of just light. Next to my room is this built-in bar area. I'm walking through the dark. I'm pretty much in the doorway of light at this point, and I hear, whoa. That was really weird. I hear, hey, right next to my ear. Ran into my room, barricaded the door, and I did not come out until my sister came home the next day. And don't get me wrong, I've heard weird stuff at my house before. I have never heard anything or anyone talk to me, and I was the only one home. And the last thing that happened to me was not necessarily a situation. I always felt like there was someone in my room. I always felt like there was someone either standing outside my window, like my sister dreamt about her doing, or I always felt like there was someone in my closet. And yes, that's a very common thing, but it was so prevalent that I felt like I was going to walk into my closet and there was going to be a human being there. And at the time, I started working at a church, and I started praying, and slowly but surely it went away, and I have not experienced anything in my house that was relative to that since. I'm also a firm believer that if you are trying to mess with these things and try to provoke these things, they will catch you off guard. I am a firm believer of that. So I've had experiences since then that were related to paranormal activity, but nothing related to that. And I know because I could feel it. So that is why I don't mess with those anymore. I don't think I will ever touch another one ever. And in my story about the museum, that is what made me extremely nauseous, and I'm convinced it was because there was something attached to the board. But just do anything else. There are so many different things that you can do to try and see activity. Don't do that. I'm also a firm believer that those just open up whatever door to wherever and whoever wants to answer first. Like the talk to me hand, that is what I think of. But anyways, that's gonna do it for me. Stay tuned for more ghost stories.